folks. Can you hear me well? I got some of my notes, and I'm here with yet another AI topic, which I guess is a standard on this conference, but I have something to say about it as well. So representing Coupler.io, but I guess most of the things that I'm going to show will be relevant to any kind of product teams. And let's just start with seeing some of the things. So we're going to talk about like the hype. I'm going to show you some numbers. Even if you were not sure that it is the highly hyped topic, then you'll see some examples of it. We're going to go through some of the use cases that at Coupler.io we've implemented. We're going to talk about some of the testing frameworks, some of the important questions and unsexy truths, and of course, some of the takeaways. So I've been in the AI implementation trenches for quite some time now, since Transformers arrived, and I remember how vividly GPT-2 hallucinated back then, like so vivid. I mean, you would never imagine anything like that with those modern GPTs. And I've seen both spectacular wins of AI and fascinating failures. So we're going to talk about some of the things that only look impressive, but about others that are impressive in fact. So Coupler.io is a data integration platform. It's trusted by one of more than 1 million users and many different companies. What we help you do is we help you get the data from different sources that you have, combine it, blend it together, and then visualize it on a dashboard or land it in your data warehouse or any other kind of destination that you might possibly have. And we are also now building AI capabilities pretty much as we speak. So there are going to be some of the slides with those question marks, and those are to keep things a little bit interactive. And just for starters, so please raise your hand if you have been on the panel discussion yesterday here, this place. OK, cool. So some of you already seen me. But now let's start with the real questions, right? So have you introduced any AI features over the last year? Please raise your hand. In your products, with your customers, or anywhere like that? Oh, not a lot of you. OK. But please keep those hands, those who have seen those features being used by customers. So you've introduced them, and you've seen people really using them. Have you seen those? Yeah, some of you also seen those. OK, cool. And then, can you measure ROI of those features? Do you know if they bring you any value, any money, any new customers, anything? Do you know that? Oh, well, I don't see a lot of hands, just a couple. And this, I guess, shows us the gap between hype and value, right? OK, so those of you who haven't introduced those features, do you have them in your roadmap? Or those of you who introduced, do you have more on your roadmap? OK, some of you also have them. And do you know what problems will they solve for your customers? Your customers stated some of the issues, and they say, AI will solve my problems, or something like that. OK, some of you also did. But for many product companies, that's only showing you those fears of missing out instead of actually figuring out what the users need. So a little bit of numbers, because I don't think any presentation can get away without any numbers. So you've seen maybe the McKinsey report that was stated that like almost 80% of companies are using AI daily in operations. And then there was this MIT report saying that 95% of enterprise customers haven't seen any real value from it, right? But that was the statement. And then Microsoft, on their last year's event, Ignite, stated that like 70% of Fortune 500 companies now use Microsoft Copilot daily. This is what they state. So this goes beyond experimentation, right? But do they see real value? So this is a great question. Some research suggests they don't. Speaking of startups, the global private investment in AI is like 150 billion, and fifth of that is generative AI specifically, right? But not only that. Back in 2020, less than 10% of Y Combinator startups were AI-related, and now it's like 65%. So like pretty much all of the startups that are trying to get investments put AI there, even though it's not real AI. You know that famous joke, which aged not so well, but still like AI is something in the PowerPoint, and then the real AI is like way behind that. And speaking of more recent numbers, like from the spring 2025 batch, more than half of startups are building agentic AI solutions. even though we know that those agents are not so great, they can't even buy you a plane ticket or something like that. So to introduce AI, you need a couple of things. First, you need a well-defined task, of course, the task that can benefit from this kind of intelligence, and then you need some infrastructure. Even if that's just an integration with some kind of API, you still need to somehow build and support it. At times, it's much more than that. You need talent to figure out that AI is really needed and to figure out which kind of it is needed and understand capabilities and limitations, but most importantly, you need data. Even if you're using LLMs, you still need some context to fit into it. You still need to bring some of the data of your customers, most likely. So, in short, there are some places where you don't need AI. And first, you should think, if this task can be solved by some kind of simpler tech, you don't need to over-engineer. Don't let your developers do so. They like those shiny things. I know, I also like those shiny things, right? But sometimes you just don't need any of it. The second thing is that if you're seeing all of your competition are starting to put AI, just think for a second and listen to yourself, and listen to the market, and listen to your customers. Your competitors might be also fooled about those AI promises that all of us have been hearing, right? Or you might not be aware of the exact use case that they're trying to solve. So just don't copy them blindly. If you see all of them doing this, just stop and think, do you need this? This is like the biggest issue. I've been in consulting for years before starting my product management path, and I've seen lots of organizations stating, we want AI without even having a basic data management, without even having some kind of data warehouses or places where they store their data, or understanding if they have a good quality data or anything like that. So if your organization is not ready, you cannot serve AI features to your customers as well, obviously, right? But not so much. And then my favorite point is that if AI brings no real value, you don't need it. If you cannot say what is the value that AI will bring you, you don't need it, because, you know what? Customers don't care. What is the technology behind the problems that you're solving? Of course, there are some customers like AI enthusiasts that would care, that would like to try new AI features, but that's just a fraction. If you're serving some kind of bigger markets, if you're working with people that are not tech-savvy, with small business owners, for example, like we do, right? Or even with marketing people which state that they are so aware of the data, they're so data-driven, but that's not the fact. Like, the research shows this, right? People don't care about the technology behind. They care about the time that they spend. They care about the money this brings. They care about the cost of all of it. They care about those kind of things, and not those that you might think of, like technology. So there was this nice research by Rational Labs, and they were asking people how much money they're willing to pay for features. There were same features. Some were AI labeled. First, they showed them AI-labeled features, and then they showed them the same features which were not AI-labeled, and the difference is just not statistically significant at all. So people are not willing for AI, per se, right? So, and now please raise your hands, those who think that AI features alone can increase any kind of key metrics. I hope no one here still thinks that, even if you were thinking differently. Okay, cool, cool. Because this is true. But at times you do need to introduce AI, right? At times you do. And here are the cases where you might need to introduce it. If you know that there is a customer problem that AI might be able to solve. I'm going to show you a couple of examples next from my experience. Another one is that if AI helps you to get rid of the bottleneck, if there are some kind of mundane processes or some kind of processes that require some specific time or specific expertise that can be explained and AI can help, why not? If this helps to reduce time to action. This is a very good one, because sometimes you need to analyze a lot of data to make some kind of a decision, and it is just faster with AI, and it can analyze data pretty much reliably. And then my favorite thing is when you automate some boring stuff, right? People don't like boring stuff. People were hoping that AI will help them do what they like, what they love, and not do some kind of data annotation, you know, or retrieval argument generation kind of things. So they are willing to do something that matters, and AI can help with that as well. We did a bit of a research, and obviously one of the audiences that we serve, those are marketers, and for marketers, analytical tasks are the place where they tend to try and use AI, right? Like half of them try to use it for finding patterns and anomalies, analyze trends, find some insights that they have. And then, like a third are just trying to shift to predictive analytics, to forecasting, to try and figure out like what are the best budget optimization strategies and things like that. So this is a fraction of the data from our onboarding questionnaire. And here you can see that we have data analysts and business owners and some students, digital marketers. Well, most of them are like data and marketing people, and then some of the business owners, right? So we're going to talk about them. So those people don't often know their ways around data. They don't know how to use it. They don't know what they have. They don't know what all of those metrics even mean. So we tried and helped them. We are doing dashboards, and we've put a widget with AI insights, with created prompts, and those insights show you like the trend, some of the key findings, like anomalies, or maybe some specific things that we've noticed in the data, and then some of the recommendations that we put, right? And it looks all nice, and let me show you some of the stats. That's, again, a fraction of stats, like for some of the generations. So this is specifically for like approximately 700 generations. So more than 100 users used this, and total cost for API was like $62 US, and then user satisfaction is almost 90%. How we measure satisfaction, they have those thumbs up and thumbs down under the answer. Of course, not all of them are using them, but still, we have some of those answers. Average generation takes just a bit more than 20 seconds, and the average cost of one generation is less than 10 cents. Of course, there are some of the generations that cost like $5, but most of them are just very, very cheap, okay? But again, does any of those numbers tell us about the real ROI? Well, not really. You can see this, right? It is just very hard to tell that if you help people in this way, if they are even using those kind of recommendations, right? So we only can rely on how they report about that, because, like, for example, we recommend them to change the proportion of the budget between like different ad sources, but then we don't actually know if they implemented it. Of course, we could maybe track that, but that would be just very hard. So it is increasingly hard to track this kind of things. Another thing that we've been doing would be like something, you know, of vibe coding maybe, and then there is vibe analytics, like conversational analytics. So when you bring your data to an AI tool and you talk to your data, basically like you would talk to a data analyst, we're using Model Context Protocol for that, and we're bringing data to Claude or ChatGPT or many other things. And it helps this data analytics for those people that don't know much about data analysis. But again, for this thing to work properly, customers need to know how to do some basic prompting, because it will not help you if you will simply like type Google-like searches in those kind of things. So we are helping them. And how are we building on top of it? So you have insights with curated prompts, and then you can ask additional questions on top of it. It's not like you're starting from the fresh chat and you don't know what to ask, but you already have something to talk about, and this is how we help. And we are also bringing those kind of data that our customers have on our platform to the AI tools that they already use. Like, I use Claude most of the time for many work-related questions. I bring my data there, and we converse about like strategies and things, and then, okay, so just let's add some of my data and talk in more detail. And this helps with context switching. That helps to bring all of the tools together. And the next step for us, which we will be building next, are all of those like destinations that we already have. And the thing that we will be building next is bring the data to where decisions actually happen. So you have a Slack bot, and you're conversing with your manager about something, and in Slack, and then you ask Coupler agent to bring you some of the data and to bring you some of those insights directly there, and you can make some decisions there and some tasks out of it, build reports, and things like that. So this is what we are trying to do, trying to bridge this gap between the data analytics and decisions and places where those decisions are made. Let's also speak about some places where AI is not welcome at all. So have you had unsuccessful AI features? You've spent like months developing them, and then they failed spectacularly or not? Okay, just I could see one hand. There are some places where we decided not to use AI at all, not to fall into this. So we don't use AI for scheduling the data flows. So when you get the data from your sources, you push it towards some kind of a destination, which is a dashboard or data warehouse or something like that. We don't offer AI to schedule them because, well, most people don't need any kind of sophisticated schedule. They simply need to know to see the fresh data every morning, for example, or at lunch, or whenever is the time where they make their analysis. So scheduling data flow, that's still manual even, no automation in this regard. For schema mapping, when you match data from different sources, same metrics may be named differently. Of course, AI could suggest some of the things to match those fields, but basically it can fail miserably, so we do this by hand. Of course, we are asking AI, and we're trying to find some of the ways with that, but always the manual decision in the end. And then there are templates of dashboards and things like that, and it's still done by us, by hands, because expertise matters, right? We know what are those metrics that marketers are looking for, what are those graphs, what are those things that they are expecting to see. Same with financial people or with sales. We ask our partners what are those things that their customers are looking for, and we do them. And of course, small queries. If you need to simply filter the data or you need to sort it, it's much faster to click twice instead of typing the prompt and waiting for AI to do the thing. You don't need to automate that. OK, so testing. Imagine you decided to introduce something. So how do you scale? How do you start? How do you, well, do all of the thing? And my first advice would be you should start small. Try using heuristics if you can, even not real AI. Or try using cheaper models. Try using like the smallest thing that you can to solve the most basic problem. So ideally, Coupler AI agent would build you dashboards, help you to figure out which data do you need, help you to figure out what are the metrics that you need for your decision. But we start with a very simple thing. You already have your dashboard, and we give you insights for that dashboard. We skip all of the other parts that we will be adding later. So we're confining the scope, iterating, just to make sure that all of this works. Of course, you need to do some kind of tests, releasing batches. If you have your early adopters program or anything like that, this is the best place to try and use it. And again, those AI enthusiasts out there, they are just willing to try new stuff. So you can reach out to them and ask them for testing, and most likely they will say yes. And then, of course, Wizard of Oz thing, fake it till you make it. You can, well, not use AI. To be honest, when you start, you can try and use some human help or some more basic automation just to make sure that all things are simply working. So some of the questions to ask. Do you need smarter or simpler? If your product is sophisticated, maybe you should just make onboardings more simple instead of adding a chatbot that will help users to onboard. Maybe you should do some kind of a small UX trick instead of adding yet another AI feature. Just ask yourself about that. And then this is even harder. What is the real value for the user? So how does AI make those things valuable? Does it? And then even more questions. How can you start small? Maybe you will figure out that you don't even need AI in the end, or you don't even need this kind of thing to be done at all. Maybe you can use simple machine learning model. If you need to do some kind of forecasting, maybe you should start with regressions or something like that instead of building sophisticated stuff, even with not with generative AI, but with any sophisticated AI. And then there's a tech question, and well, cost-related tech question. Those APIs of generative models and many other things, they cost money. And it might seem like it's not much, but then they keep adding and those tokens, well, it's not so hard to, it's not so easy to figure out, like how much would you pay. But you will need to estimate, and at times, developing something might be even cheaper than building those kind of spacecrafts. And some of the takeaways. Again, I will not stop saying this. Customers don't care. They don't care. If it's AI or if it's not AI, how much money have you spent, how much research, how much time your designer spent there as well, trying to figure out where to put it. That doesn't matter. Value, this is what matters. You also need some of the homework to be done. What is your task? Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have the right talent? Do you have the right data? Can you add more context? Because we know that people don't know how to prompt. Can you give this LLM enough context so that it could actually solve this question instead of bringing some kind of frustration to your users? And then always start small. Always start small and try solving some real problems instead of those that you think might be solved with AI. And to finish on top of this, don't waste your time on AI for AI's sake. Focus on building products that happen to use AI instead of AI that happens to be packed as a product. So just focus on the things that matter. And hope you liked it. There's no time for questions in my talk, but we can talk afterwards. You can find me here, or maybe you can find me on LinkedIn. I haven't put a QR code, and that was a mistake, but still. Hope you liked it, and thank you so much.